Okay, you've made it to the third and final part of this PhET atomic structure. So we're now going to go down here and click where it says Games. And you will see there are 4 games here. It automatically turns the timing off for you. But if you also want to turn the sound off, you can go ahead and click that right there. You do need to play all 4 games, and you need to get at least 4 full stars. So they'll do half stars, but you have to have at least 4 full stars. So let's go ahead and check out this first game. It gives you the protons, neutrons, and electrons, and it wants you to first find the element. Now remember, when we're talking finding the element, I need to look at my protons. So I have 8 protons, so I need the 8th element. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's oxygen. And now it wants to know if it's a neutral atom, meaning that it's going to have a charge of 0, or if it's an ion, meaning it's going to have a charge of something other than 0. So for our charge, we have to do protons minus electrons. So 8 minus 8 gives me 0, so that is a neutral atom. Then I'm going to click check, and it tells me if I got it correct or not. It can also give me a diagram like this. Now think back to when we've been working on those other 2 sections. Red dots were protons, gray dots were neutrons, and blue dots were electrons. So right here I have 1 red dot, so that tells me that I have 1 proton, so that's going to be hydrogen. Now my proton is 1, I look on the shells for my electrons, and I have none. So 1 minus 0 is 1, which tells me that this is going to be an ion. You're going to continue to follow that process. Now let's say you make a mistake. So we have 1 proton here, and let's say I make a mistake and say that this is a neutral atom. It's going to give me a sad face and ask me to try again. So I feel pretty confident that this is hydrogen, but now I know that it's an ion because I have a 1 proton minus 2 electrons. So I can get half of my points back when I do that. Each section has 5 questions. Okay. So to get your 4 stars, you need at least 8 points. Okay. Looking at our second game, maybe, here we go. Again, we're looking at a picture, and this one gets tricky because it asks you different questions. So make sure you're reading the question that it asks you. So this one says, what is the total charge? Remember, charge is protons minus electrons. I have 1 proton, because protons are red, minus 2 electrons. So that's going to give me a -1 charge. This time looks the same, but it says, what is the mass number? Remember, mass number is everything that's in the middle. It's what's in my nucleus. So protons plus neutrons. Here that's going to be red and gray, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 things. And those 4 subatomic particles of protons and neutrons gives me a mass number of 4. So those are the types of questions you're going to see. It can be a picture, or it can come up in words like we were seeing in our last one. The third game is focused around those symbols, like what we did in our part 2. So remember, down here is my proton number, this is my mass number, and this is my charge. So I only have 1 thing in the middle, so I'm going to have a mass number of 1. Again, if we're looking at charge, protons minus electrons. And this is an example of when they give us our info. So again, I'm looking for charge, protons minus electrons, -1, so on and so forth. They can also give you something like this where you are figuring out the protons, and it gives you this clue here by being red. So 1, 2, you do not have to put the element symbol in, it does that for you. Now the very last game mixes a lot of stuff and adds in you building the atom, so the opposite of what you had been doing with the symbol. So let's take a look at this one. You had a 1 proton, so I'm going to go ahead and put 1 proton in there. I need a total of 2 things in the middle. So whenever I'm doing my neutrons, I'm going to take my mass number minus my proton number. So 2 minus 1, I just need 1 neutron in there. And I need my charge to be 0. So I'm saying 1 minus what gets me 0? 1 minus 1. So I need 1 electron. It'll also ask you if I give you this info to make the symbol. So this is putting together pretty much everything you've seen over the other 3 games and asking you to kind of mesh that together. Once you have finished all 4 games, you'll do a screen cap or screen grab of this, a snippet of this, and you will paste it right down here. Now, if you are stuck on one or you feel like one really should be right and you want to send that to me, feel free to look at the video on the snipping tool and send me a picture of your screen. Let me know if you have any questions.